I would like us to see have more efficiently run meetings. There's some small things that would change that. For instance, the chairwoman reads all the resolutions and ordinances in front of us. The clerk ought to do that. Most clerks in any other form of government always read those ordinances. And the chairwoman sometimes is so involved in participating in the meeting, she doesn't have a chance to look left or right to see where council might be going. That's a small thing. Another small thing is no one can bring anything before council unless it has a councilman's name on it, so that you can go to that, say that's Councilman Loftus. I ought to be able to pick up the phone and say, Mr. Loftus, where's this particular issue? What's the vote count? What are the issues? Where's the discussion going this evening? And I think that makes for more efficiently run meetings. I think that's relatively easy. I think you need to look at our histories and what we've done. His argument is he's lived here 50 years. My question would be, what has he done? You want somebody who's been flying airplanes 7 years, or you want somebody reading the training manual? The majority of the folks in the county do not live along the beach, and I don't think you ought to pay for specific industries with taxation. I would never support that. No, that law is a state law, and I don't think that's constitutional. The way I interpret the law is we cannot make state laws more restrictive. I think we'll see, my guess would be there'll be a Supreme Court ruling coming down shortly that says I don't like executive session. I know the chairwoman takes great credit on her watch, but if you'll go back and notice, when I came on council, executive sessions fell off tremendously. The problem I have with them, they're never private, because somebody always walks out and tells the press what's in there. Why shouldn't you have the press in there all along? In most cases, the only thing that you would have would be if you were doing some type of personnel report, the employee has the option of keeping that private. We council only hired 2 people, the administrator and the clerk. That's another example of where we need to change that. In my time on council, we've only rated the administrator once. We need to do that annually, and he needs to get feedback from the council. What I've asked the staff to do, and if you'll recall this discussion, by second reading, I would like staff to tell us what 25 positions they would eliminate. I really don't think it's council's job to micromanage down to positions in the county. I would prefer they do that. If they're not able to do that, then I'll be glad to tell them what 25 I think they ought to eliminate. But if you go back and look consistently over the last years, I argued we got to the end of the year and we had what I call found money. There was money above what we needed in fund balance, and there was we simply made more money at the end of the year than we anticipated. We should have returned that money to the taxpayer. We didn't. We let government grow. And if you look at the size of our government where it was 5 years ago, I would argue we need to cut the size of government, make government smaller, more efficient. I've been consistent on that. I voted against the A-tax allocation every time because I don't think we were putting that money out properly. I think the hoedown and the bog off are examples where that clearly did not fit. That's not to say we don't need to fund those through another source, and I just gave some of my recreation money because we made a commitment to them to replace that money. When you go look at A-tax, it specifically says what you can spend that money on, and the bottom line is that it has to be the folks that generate it get that money to put back into tourism. If you recall, when we voted for riding on a penny, those particular items were put together by a commission, and two of those members, while they weren't from Carolina Forest, were from Conway and should have represented perhaps Carolina Forest better. There was not enough money in the entire Ride 2 program to fix 501 at Carolina Forest. That needs to be fixed, and one of the things we have been very successful on the south end as an example, and I would argue we need to do this throughout the county, is we need to get citizens involved in task force that keeps those kind of issues in front of the public all the time. And when you have a task force, like on the south end, we have 10 members from Georgetown County and 11 members from Horry County working the Southern Evacuation Lifeline as an example. I would like to think that, first of all, what is the priority in Carolina Forest? Is it the intersection at 501? Is it widening Carolina Forest Boulevard? Is it...
what do you think?
I would argue that it's all of those things, and depending on where you are in Carolina Forest, changes where the emphasis goes. When I'm closer to the intersection, they want the intersection worked on. When I'm meeting with HOAs further down Carolina Forest, they want the road widened. And when I'm all the way on the north end, then they want International Drive fixed to get out to Highway 9. So to me, there is no clear number one priority in Carolina Forest. First of all, I'm disappointed in them. They made a promise to the citizens of Horry County, and they basically stonewalled us. Now the question is, what do you do? Do you take additional taxpayer money and take them to court and demand they share the audit, or do you just run another separate audit? That's the interesting question. I think we need to continue to try to get that audit, but I don't think we need to go spend another $30,000 or $40,000 of taxpayers' money to do a separate audit.
Would you support going to court to get this?
I would, absolutely. But having said that, I want to know the cost involved. What's the opportunity cost? Do I spend the salary of a policeman to go after them? I want to know what's going to cost.